What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Design Simulator. Tonight, we have a very interesting problem statement for you. We're going to be looking at an AI Stories app. Now, this is a real app that has been funded by Y Combinator. And tonight, we're going to be going through the brief, helping you deconstruct and make sense of how exactly should you approach problem statements. And then we're going to show you some solutions, some actual real design projects that members from the 10K Designers cohort have worked on. Let's jump in, okay? We have a really nice episode tonight. And real quick, let me bring in my co-host for tonight. So folks, this is our brief for tonight. We're going to be going through this. Woori. That's our app for today. Woori. I found this startup while doing some research into some recent Y Combinator startups. And this one integrates AI in an interesting way. This is their very early mobile app, right? So my guess would be this is their kind of MVP. And so given that it's an MVP, we noticed a bunch of issues. There were, it wasn't as good as it could have been. Folks, I just thought I'd include a little meme here, okay? Let's watch this. Have you guys seen this?
हाय हाय ये देखो कालू डर रहा है हाय 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 अरे भाई कितना प्यारा ये आया भूरी
So folks, Woori. That's what we're going to be doing today. The space they're operating in, it's not new, right? Companies like Wattpad have existed for a while. But from a business perspective, what's new? What's their competitive advantage? And one big one that they definitely have is that using AI, they are able to bring a new life to stories, right? So what I see that they're doing is they are kind of aggregating a bunch of content. I guess some of them is their own. Some of them, I think maybe they're using some additional sources, but they've used AI to create this nice visual storytelling format, right? So seeing the story come to life. That's the idea. Let's check out some competitors, right? Let's see what people have looked into. Shai, you mentioned Headway. I think I've seen Headway as well. I think I've seen their Instagram ads. And I think Headway, their whole thing is around books. If I remember correctly, it's more about information learning.
Yeah.
These, I think, are specific to stories.
Notes.
But going a little bit in depth, right? So this is their homepage. Very Netflix style UI. I think personally for me, one of the things that I thought was the biggest opportunity here is there is zero brand. If you really notice, right? Like once I open the homepage, I have no idea which app I'm on. Now, in terms of vibes, it feels like Netflix. But in terms of the covers and this thing, like I could be inside Wattpad and not know. Like I think one of the biggest things I noticed was lack of brand. And lack of brand, I don't just mean, logo dal do upar, like let's just put a, Woori over here. But like their typeface, I think they're using something standard. Their brand colors, I think they've used orange, but not really used in the app in any interesting way. It worked though. Like we were able to read stories and stuff, but again, quite basic. And so my main thing was, given that Wattpad itself is a competitor, right? And Wattpad's been around for way longer. I think one opportunity definitely is how can I create a better brand? No search bar. Okay. I don't think there was a bottom bar here. So you cannot really search and go by category. They do have categories as these sections here. So you can kind of scroll. Have you used Pratilipi?
No, man.
Okay. Yeah, I've checked it out. Not really fully used it. But I think in India, Pratilipi right now is one of the top apps in this space. We've got web novel. Interesting design, this web novel. Like a mix of light mode and dark mode.
This is the brand that I was talking, right? Like when we look at web novel, it gives me that vibe. It gives me that, okay, maybe it's gamified, but not specifically bite-sized. Some sort of consumption, but a different one. It's not the same as any other platform.
My observation is, I think the information architecture, like designing one of these apps, information architecture seems quite standard, like in the sense that it is in the end, you need to, like the information architecture needs to be one where you can browse a lot of content, right? So I think keeping it similar to Netflix or even these guys, very similar, let's say to Instagram, where you've got an explore tab, you've got your profile, you've got featured, which I guess is another type of discover. And I guess one of the biggest challenges designing an app like this is you got to have really good information architecture such that discovery becomes easy. And discovery can happen like lots of ways. It can be category, it can be search, it can be, through recommendations. Should we jump into some solutions, Shai? Yeah. Let me open the prototype. All right. So onboarding, personalize your library. Okay. Genres. Let's pick some. Okay. Library, recent reads. So recent reads, this is for returning users. If you're not a returning user, I guess this section won't show up. Recommended for you. I like the small detail here. I just noticed this. Like they've got this edge over here, making them look like books.
That's nice.
Nice detail. Looks interesting on this. Okay, so recommended topic and spacing issue. Yeah, but okay. Right. And then mysteries. Oh, quotes. Interesting. From Wattpad. Shuffle button. Nice idea, I feel. Because personally, like the way I feel about it is I would not know what to start with. Especially if they are 4 hours and all. I'm like, I don't know how to make that decision. Could be interesting having that. Short reads. Oh, got it. Other than that, we've got search. Okay, nice. Good idea putting GIFs. Nice. Bookshelf. So one thing I think Nandika has done different from the existing app is she's added a bottom bar. So library, search, and my stuff. So like bookshelf, what I have read, saved for reading, as well as completed and quotes. Search has discovery, standard layout. You can search by tag or you can search by category. Okay, maybe a trailer. Okay, let's come back to some static screens. So top level feedback, I think information architecture is clean, right? I did notice some issues. Like your heading here is Ahana's library, but I noticed that in the onboarding, you don't actually ask me for my name, right? So I'm assuming this is the user's name, Ahana, but here the name is not really asked, right? So I think that's an issue. If there was a sign up with Facebook or Google, then you can automatically get the name. But I think if you're just getting emails, that's a possible issue. Personally, I would probably maybe just put Woori's logo on top. But yeah. Any observations, Shai, as you're going through?
3 things, man. Like I was just, obviously the information architecture is really nice. What Woori lacked has been kind of sorted here. Although I still have the search being the way it has been structured, this feels a little bit overwhelming. Maybe I would have had tabs to filter it out as a global level and then search it. Maybe a more intrinsic way to do filtering. That's something that we could have thought of. It just feels like the search is not usable or actionable. Like it just feels really overwhelming at this point. And second part to it is like what Deep Stash has done, right? Deep Stash is a way of creating bite-sized content on the internet from all the blogs that are there on the internet, right? So what they like, they basically have a social feed where Abhinav is also there. I'm following Abhinav. Like if Abhinav actually goes and likes a post, then what happens is like that gets recommended on my feed, right? So the indecisiveness of what to learn can be kind of sorted out with a social angle or an aspect towards it, like maybe a community front, right? That could have been kind of sorted out. But the way Deep Stash does it, it's like a chronological, but then it's majorly about how many people find that insightful. It's just like 4-liner context, and then you read it, you find it interesting, and then you go forward with it. Because I'm not really a fan of reading the number of time or consumption it takes to consume a content. Like for an example, the book that you opened, it's like 35 minutes or like 20 pages. And then it's not something that actually matters to me, whether the content is valuable or not. Maybe a 4-liner or an import context from it could have asked my attention. Is maybe a bias from my end, but that's the
I get what you mean. I think one thing though is Deep Stash is educational. Like you're supposed to learn stuff. I think that does change a bunch of stuff where like this is like opposite of educational, right? Like you're not really coming here to learn anything. It's just
Yeah.
pure entertainment. So
Uh,
do you think that
Have
changes?
have you
Yeah.
watched the Laugh for Netflix? So
No.
what it does it do is like basically it chooses the comic part of certain movies or
Hmm.
series that they have. It comes as reels inside Netflix.
Okay.
So they've just taken the most interesting part of the context, made it into a reel, and
Hmm.
that will direct you to the content. So some sort of segue like that, just know the context. It can be a very important statement or a line that's been conversed in the novel, could have been
Hmm.
thrown out and that grasped my interest. Maybe people
Hmm.
could highlight the content. I found this like how Medium has, right? Like I found this valuable.
Hmm.
Some sort of social angle to it could have reduced the indecisiveness for me. I'm just worried about color blinded people. Like, I mean, it's context. It's just readable material, right? Accessibility is a very crucial part of both what Uri and
Hmm.
here, right? Like glassmorphism could have been avoided, or
Hmm.
maybe the animated part could be in a different container, like which is not a part of the text. I know it's visually beautiful, but then
Hmm.
uh, accessibility is kind of hindering over here.
Hmm.
On a scalable level, think about this. Like if more animated
Hmm.
elements are behind it, the context with the glassmorphic effect behind the text is going to
Got
keep
it.
changing the color,
True.
right?
Yeah.
And here also, like the I just played the prototype right now. So
Hmm.
what DeepStack does is like maybe I'm really biased towards what they have done. They have split the content into multiple containers.
Hmm.
So when you scroll a container, it's not an internal scroll. It's basically a card that's being slid.
Hmm.
So it'll be like paragraphs that are read by AI
Hmm.
and properly made into a card, right? Like properly contained into a card.
Hmm.
So that is kind of giving the feeling that hey, you don't have to do an internal scroll or
Yeah.
have to worry about that.
Hmm. But okay. So wrapping up, right? My like final thoughts on this. I would say the reading experience could use some work. Some things to think about. The glass morphism, right? I think maybe it's better if you use a more solid background here, especially if this is moving. Maybe the background changes too much. Just a note there. I would probably try just a dark card on this. Other than that, the reading experience, maybe I wasn't able to get a clear idea of the text, but this definitely does not work. Like just scrolling within that. Outside of that, though, just a final note I would say on just the reading experience. Like I know you've used the Ghibli scenes to make it look better, but I think you should get into some AI stuff, like in the sense that try generating a real AI image so that you have an idea of how realistic it is. Like, for example, in this case, I know it's a beautiful GIF, and so it'll look good in the UI. But let's say there are 10,000 books, right? You will not be able to keep that same level of quality across all. And so maybe a more conservative design, which works even when the image is not so great, right? But I would definitely suggest generating some AI stuff. So that's my scope of improvement. Other than that, though, my feedback to you, Nandika, is this works. Like this, the information architecture you've laid out, it is an improvement over the current. I can say that, which means you were actually successful with the brief. Number two, it does have a kind of, let's just say, a good foundation on which future stuff can be built. However, this, I think, let's just say, works in limited contexts. So this could use a little bit of a change. But overall, I think you've solved the brief. You've done a good job. And kudos to Nandika. All right, folks. So that's about it for tonight's episode. Overall, you all do have the link. So feel free to check it out. Other than that, if you want to check out some of the other episodes we've done so far, if you've not seen so, we've got this one, which we did Alpha Shine. We did Apnibus. That's on the channel. Check it out for sure. Besides that, if you're interested in enrolling, definitely applications are only open for a few more weeks. So we're planning to start in July. And so we're going to close applications pretty soon. If you're interested, now would be a good time to put it in. If you want to work on problem statements like this, but it's challenging and you want to do it in a collaborative environment, this would be the place for you. Cool, guys. Thanks a lot and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Thank you, guys.